Alex, good morning. What have you got?
Yeah, good morning. As you say, penultimate day of the transfer window, but I still think this next 48 hours, Jim, is going to be absolutely chaotic and mad. We're going to love every minute of it. Well, you and I are anyway. I'm not sure we speak for Simon. Nunes is
Never
an
mind
interesting
him.
one.
Yes, go on, mate.
Well, Nunes is an interesting one because last night we were reporting a verbal agreement between Manchester City and Wolves of around about £47 million. It's actually now £53 million. That's the fee the two clubs have settled on. That'll be a club record as far as Wolverhampton Wanderers are concerned for players leaving Molineux. No add-ons, so it's all up front. A 10% sell-on fee on any profit that City make down the line on Nunes has also been agreed. And coming in the other direction, as we first reported on talkSPORT a week or so ago, Tommy Doyle, one of Manchester City's young players, that'll be a loan deal initially with the option of a £5 million transfer at the end of the season, which seems cheap, doesn't it, when you look at some of the fees City have got for their young players. They've got a 50% sell-on clause on Doyle, so clearly they believe that he might be worth a lot more than £5 million in the future. I think this is good for Wolves, good for Gary O'Neill. They've got it sorted with a couple of days to spare, and they'll now look at trying to rebuild their squad. And they've offloaded a player who was on strike, effectively.
Well, exactly. Simon, does it not boil your blood that Nunes has got what he wanted? He downs tools and he's going to get his move.
Well, I assume that Wolverhampton Wanderers have found some sort of a chord in their ability to bring a player in at a slightly perhaps reduced price than one would have anticipated, which is what Alex is alluding to. They've also got this 47 million quid all up front, and so that might have formed part of the discussions in the commercial negotiation. We'll take 60 million on the drip, or we'll take 50 million up front, and they found an accord. The player's got what he wants. That was always an inevitability, but I wanted Wolverhampton Wanderers to get what they wanted out of it as well. And if they have, then it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it goes to show it works. A player goes on strike or threatens to down tools and he gets what he wants.
Well, not necessarily.
I thought you'd throw the kitchen sink at Matheus Nunes for that.
Well, not necessarily. We did that the other day. The point is we're talking about what Wolverhampton Wanderers may have been able to achieve out of it. The commercial discussion was always ongoing.
Yeah.
If Wolves' position was, don't care what the bid was, we're not selling him, and then they did this, then I'd say something different. But Wolves' position wasn't. Wolves' position is, it's like, we've established what you are, madam. We just want to know what the price is. Go to Winston Churchill's quote from years ago of Lady Astor.
Yeah.
The point is that we established that Wolves wanted to sell. The commerciality of the deal that was being put in front of them didn't appeal to them. Then the commerciality of a rebranded deal, which involved a player being thrown in with a degree of subtlety to that player, and a perhaps changement of the payment terms, changed Wolves' commercial attitude towards it, and so they got rid of a player that don't want to be there.
53 million quid. Wolves have boosted the bank balance with that, but they're losing Nunes in the process. Matheus Nunes out of there. For all I know, Cole Palmer, Alex, might well have passed his driving test just about 4 years ago. Now he's getting involved in a deal worth 45 million. It's going to see him go from Manchester City to Chelsea. Where is it at this precise moment in time this morning?
Well, a fee was agreed last night, Jim. As you say, 40 million plus £5 million in add-ons. I think the fee was agreed after Cole Palmer made it clear to Manchester City that he was open to this move. I think the writing's been on the wall for Cole Palmer after he started the season in decent goal-scoring form. Pep Guardiola was asked outright, are you going to keep him or are you going to sell him? And he said, well, we're not going to loan him, but we could be open to a permanent transfer. And I think really that was all the notice that Cole Palmer needed, that he wasn't going to feature prominently for Man City this season. He's just won the Under-21 European Championships with England. He believes he's ready to play week in, week out in the Premier League. And he's another young, up-and-coming player heading for Stamford Bridge. But it does seem strange, the Chelsea business model. They've got rid of a lot of their own academy products this summer, and now they're paying £45 million to sign an academy product from effectively a Premier League rival. This probably will be the last piece of incoming business at Chelsea. I say probably because you never know what Todd Bowley might get up to on deadline day.
Well, we'll keep an eye on what he gets up to. I mean, Simon, this is a boy. God love him. He looks a good player. 19 appearances for City's first team. Scored twice in 3 games this season against Arsenal in the Community Shield and against Sevilla in the UEFA Super Cup. And we're talking about 45 million quid for him.
Yep.
I mean, where are we at now with this?
Well,
with the money that's going round?
We're at the space where academies are doing what they should be doing, which is producing talent. That talent is getting nearer the first team, and the quantums of cash that are swashing around the marketplaces are adding scale to what was already a model that's been in place for years. Many years ago, there was this sort of mythology about Man United used to get players out of their academy, stick them in their first team, play 3 or 4 games and flog them for 5 or 6 million quid because they'd had this attachment of being in the side at Manchester United, and teams were prepared to pay that kind of money. And you saw players coming out of United's academy like Jonathan Spector and Alan Tate and Giuseppe Rossi that were going into different football clubs on the back of being Man United players. Gibson, Luke Chadwick, people of that nature that weren't good enough for Manchester United but were good enough by association because they'd been at Manchester United. And that scale has now moved. This boy is obviously a capable player, as he wouldn't have got anywhere near Manchester City's team. But when you're talking about players being paid 45 million for a kid that's played very little first-team football, that's at a certain age, well, it might fit into Chelsea's model. Chelsea want younger players, probably on slightly reduced salaries against some of the established players because they're able to get them early.
Yeah. And
so all of that will play into a longer-term perspective. But I do think Alex's point has some saliency. I mean, obviously, clearly, when you sell academy players, you bank all the profit as a result of it because you have no running cost on that player. You don't have anything on your balance sheet in terms of a transfer fee that you paid for previously. But you're now buying a player that you're doing precisely the polar opposite for Manchester City. They're getting the benefit of that transaction. It's an interesting one because most people would suggest leaving Pep Guardiola is not a wise move for a young player.
Sure. Well, he's about to do that. Palhinha has got a few suitors out there. One of them, Bayern Munich. Have you heard that as well, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the Arsenal game against Fulham last weekend. I tweeted to say I can't believe that no big clubs have come in for Joao Palhinha because he was the best player on the pitch for me that afternoon. We know West Ham tried in vain to sign him earlier in the window. I was told this morning that Bayern Munich have indeed made a £60 million offer. Fulham looking for £80 million. But I think what's key here is that Palhinha, as he was when West Ham came calling, he's pushing for this move. So this is certainly one to watch between now and 11 o'clock tomorrow. Big loss for Fulham, having already sold Mitrovic to the Middle East. I think if they lose Palhinha as well, could be a really difficult season for Marco Silva.
They'll have 100 million plus to play about with, though, albeit in the hours that remain. What about Clement Lenglet? Is he heading to the Midlands? I think he is.
Yeah, he is defensive cover for Aston Villa, needed because of their injury situation. He was on loan at Spurs last season. I think Barcelona spent most of the summer trying to fix him up with a permanent move away. That hasn't happened, but a loan agreement reached last night between Villa and Barcelona. Maybe good news for our charity bet, Jim, because after that 5-1 defeat at Newcastle, Villa have recovered okay, haven't they?
They have indeed. They have indeed. I will willingly pay up that charity bet, just as Simon did at the tail end of last season, albeit in 20 pence pieces. And what about Brighton? Any news on them today? Because they've got money to play with, haven't they?
Well, this, for me, could be one of the most extraordinary stories of the next 48 hours. Ansu Fati, once a wonder kid over in Spain, at Barcelona, been linked with several big clubs in Europe and the Premier League this summer. Brighton trying to get a deal done. Roberto De Zerbi, very much the driving force. It will be a loan deal with no option, I don't believe, to make it a permanent signing at the end of the season. But what a statement for Brighton this would be if they could snap up a player of the calibre and the reputation of Ansu Fati. And I do think De Zerbi is important in all of this. If he wasn't there, I'm not sure he would even contemplate moving to the Sussex coast.
That shows you the importance of someone like De Zerbi around the place, Simon.
Yeah, of course, on a competitive side in the Premier League. What a statement. You've banked 400 million quid and you've spent none of it.
Well, that's true, Alex.
They have a business, Simon.
Good business model, absolutely.
Yeah, but Brighton fans will be wanting them to spend before the window shuts tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. Alex, thanks very much indeed. You and I are going to be busy. Of that, there is no doubt. Alex and I will take you through the closing hours of the transfer window tomorrow night live on talkSPORT. He'll be back with us, no doubt, before that as well. That was a roundup of some of the top transfer stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.